Welcome back to another special episode of GTA Online, everyone. For a while now, Barnabas has been planning something big, a huge heist that will be quite lucrative for him. But this heist is different. This heist takes place on an island with heavy security everywhere, guarding every nook and cranny of the place. But if Barnabas does this right, if he can successfully pull this off, he will never have to work a day in his life ever again. This is the Cayo Perico heist. So recently a new DLC came out, which I'm sure you all know about. It's a new update that adds a submarine, some new vehicles, radio stations, and an entire island which you can rob until you strip it of all its wealth, so pretty cool stuff. Also, before we begin with the DLC, I have to say that I will be wearing this outfit today as suggested to me by Pandabra. It's a relatively easy outfit to make, but if you want to know how to make it, this is the comment here. So now that we have that out of the way, we have to buy the vehicles that this DLC offers. So I went straight to Warstock and spent an absurd amount of money on some overpriced vehicles that I will likely never use more than once. Now that that is done with, it's time to finally begin the real heist. I headed on over to the brand new music locker at the casino, which is just a nightclub copy and pasted, so I guess Rockstar is running out of ideas. What a shame. Anyways, I went inside and talked to a man that was slightly coked out telling me about the heist. So I sat through this long ass unskippable cutscene that I did not pay attention to. But basically this guy told me about a bad guy on an island, he has valuable shit, I need to rob him, blah blah blah. I don't really give a shit about any of that. After that long cutscene, I spent another painful $9 million on maxing out a submarine. Obviously, I made it red with an Italian flag. No further elaboration. I went inside my submarine for the first time and found Pokemon's top donator who greeted me. He did not smell good. He introduced me to the sub and the whole time I felt like I was suffocating. He tried to sneak out a few farts, but there's not really any place it can escape, and it got real bad real fast. I asked him to leave because he unsettled me and I didn't want to be alone with him all the way out in the sea. Once he left, I walked around my new sub and tested some things out, including this remote control missile and doing donuts in my sub. So after I had fun with my new toy, I began the Cayo Perico heist and started the first setup mission. I was instructed to fly over to the airport where I was greeted by Dave, some clueless tourists, and some stoners. There was also this old guy who thinks he was still 19 who left immediately after arriving. We all got on the plane and partied, except the stoners. They were not vibing. For some reason, when we got on the island, Barnabas had quick changed into a hippie and I got my business outfit back on pronto. We drove over to a party where I was told to find the Madrazo files and find information that will be valuable to the heist. I ignored that and broke out into a dance. I didn't even want to rob this place anymore. This was a sick party. I quickly snapped out of it though and began to search around. I left through the gate and headed towards where the files were. I ran to my first problem, which was the fact that there were guards and cameras everywhere. This would not be all that easy. I was caught my first attempt and I smiled at the guard and hoping we could be friends. They did not want to be friends. Anyways, after attempting a few more times, I made my way to El Rubio's compound, and after my hard work, I was told to go to the communications tower. So I got there and hacked my way into the signal box with my genius hackmaking skills. After that, I was allowed access to the camera through my phone where I saw a man get mauled by a panther. This is when I switched cameras and finally found the Madrazo files, which would be my primary target and give me $1.1 million. I also saw a schizophrenic man in there that was nodding and pointing things out on a blank clipboard. After that, I found some more secondary targets and an entry point to the vault. I was then instructed to go and scope out the North Dock as an entry point. This is when I thought it would be a good idea to drive a boat and ramp it into the land. I was then dragged back to the party, which was a pretty calm reaction considering how I probably broke that boat. I guess they just didn't really care all that much. So I just went around finding more targets that I could rob and also some bolt cutters. After all that was taken care of and I completely scoped this place out out under their noses, I was instructed to go back to the airstrip and tell the pilot to fly me back to the greatest city in the world. I proceeded to do wheelies around the airstrip for about 10 minutes before asking the pilot to do so. Of course, this was after I had decapitated him with a table. After I got back to Los Santos, I had to finish the rest of the setups, which I will cut out of this video because nobody cares about that. So long story short, I finished all of the setups and now it was time for the heist. But I didn't want to do this bitch alone because I was scared, so I got one of my friends who for some reason instructed me to call him Reggie for this video to do the heist with me. We began the heist by going to the island via submarine. There were mines everywhere in the water, but when I touched them, nothing happened, so I guess they got them from Party City or something. Anyways, we swam to the island and jumped right in. I went inside this little building with Reggie following close behind and shot this box that had multiple explosive warnings on it. Now that I look back on the situation, this was probably not the best decision. We then literally exploded the gate and began to collect some cash, our first bit of loot. I like how on this island they just keep shit lying around scattered throughout with little to no protection. I mean, from me to that $90,000 in cash was an incompetent guard and a flimsy lock on a gate. Smart move, Rubio. We were caught pretty much right after peeking out and we just decided to get ourselves killed, considering we wanted to at least try to do this thing stealthily. But as I threw the grenade to kill myself, I realized I hadn't wanted to die after all, so I jumped out of the car and ran for my life. It did not go well. We shortly restarted the heist after that and were not happy when we found out we had to swim again. Like, why are we parking the sub out so far? I'm sure no one's gonna care if we take the handicap spot. So once we got to the island, I took this guy out, but for some reason we were caught. I guess since it wasn't an immediate headshot, every single person on the island heard the guy faintly moaning as he died. Since I was a little aggravated, I went a little excessive and plopped down 5 grenades just to guarantee my death. So once again we restarted the heist, and when we swam to shore, a strange looking elephant was waiting for us. He did not seem to be well either. Shortly after meeting him, we said goodbye to our dear friend and went to collect our well-deserved money. I decided to blend in with the crowd as we waited for the guard to turn around. Unfortunately, the crowd did not take to me here as they did in Los Santos. They shouted and called me names, so I quickly left them. I then knocked out this guard and ran to some weed that transferred directly to cash apparently. After that, we were up to a cool $370,000. Sadly though, as we were trying to get the timing right on taking out these guards, we counted down and for some reason I fucking fell asleep or something and shot way too late. By this point, it was already over, but we had previously decided that we did not want to take that big swim back to the island again, and we just rolled with it, going balls to the wall, killing every guard in sight. We made some pit stops though, as we wanted to collect the weed and stuff along the way. Well, actually it was more like one pit stop, but still, you get the idea. I also got these bolt cutters for God knows what, and we pushed through until we were able to get the vehicles again. Once we did, we drove over to El Bubio's compound and began the real heist. I came in with quite the entrance like always, and since a cutscene was starting, the guards on the outside of the compound snapped their fingers and walked away. This is because once a cutscene starts, they are obviously not allowed to interact with you anymore. That's just how it works in real life and in the game. Like if you're ever in some deep shit, try to trigger a cutscene, it usually works out. Anyways, we were walking in there with 500 grand in our pockets, so we already had a pretty penny over our heads. We also saw this guy on the map and his icon says everything. Basically, this motherfucker has a minigun. We pretty much took him out on the spot, but this would not be our last attempt at this level here, so he will be a recurring character in the storyline, and you're going to need to remember him for the upcoming test. I also saw as we were mowing these guys down that there were 2 key cards we needed to get to these little houses with golden shit, so that would be pretty important. We slowly made our way through the guards and kept looking for the key card. Eventually, it became too much to handle and I was overrun. As Reggie saw me die, he went on one final mission into the enemy and died a brave death. The second time around wasn't much better, and we both pretty much died immediately by the hands of the minigun guy. By the third run, we were getting desperate and we tried to steal this car to no avail. The car was more just a statue for decoration rather than an actual car because it would not open and was unmovable. It was not a good run. I don't want to bore you with all the failed attempts anymore, so I'll just skip to the 92nd and final run, which we succeeded on. This began with us almost getting taken out by Minigun Man and taking it very slowly in order to control the area and make sure we were stable before we moved up. We learned from our past mistakes by getting killed by him so many times that we waited for him to stop shooting and we murdered him. As he slumped against the hedges, the guards of the compound quickly realized just how deep the shit they were in was, and we blasted through them, but at the same time moved slow. They did not know what to do anymore, we were just too fast and had infinite ammo. As we were controlling the area, I devised a new plan where Reggie would stay behind, controlling our area, and I would move forward, seeing if I could find anything new, or if we needed to go farther up for the second key card. Eventually, Reggie moved up as well, and he got the second key card. Shortly after he collected the key card, we went up to one of the houses and opened it with our key cards. It was perfectly timed too. That's the magic of being in a Discord call rather than just being in chat. So we collected some of the gold before our loot bags filled up completely, which I didn't realize was a thing. Anyways, now it was time for the final target, the Madrazo files. Just like everything else, we slowly made our way to the vault. We were led to this room where I put on my cool hackmer glasses and started going to town matching up fingerprints. Yeah, I guess it's not as much of an accomplishment as I think. Once I had hacked my way through, the secret elevator opened up and we went on down into the belly of the beast. We were met with some guards like usual, and I used my bolt cutters to open up the vault with the precious files. Again, the security is not as tight-knit as you would think. I then entered the code that Pavel, the guy that was on my submarine and who I have grown to love, sent to me. I then took the files and we quickly swept through the guards on our way out to the exit of the compound. Once we made it to the gate, once again the guards disappeared and the outer compound guards finally came back. I miss these guys. I mean, not a single one of them even have a minigun. These are the real homies. I then went the wrong way, realizing that a wall was blocking my way to freedom. Once it registered to me that my tires were out and guards were closing in behind me, I committed to this direction and drove off the small cliff. Reggie fucking died on impact and I was left alone. There was air support above me, but I cheesed that by swimming deep underwater so they couldn't shoot me. Unfortunately, I got cocky and didn't notice that the ground was getting higher as I was approaching land. I was shut down. Luckily, we were able to restart where we had exited the compound, and so we easily did the same thing without Reggie dying, and we eventually made it back to the submarine, therefore concluding the heist. We successfully robbed El Rubio blind and walked right out of his compound with $1.5 million. Anyways, we got into this cutscene where we found out Madrazo was paying us $1.5 million for a revealing picture of Trevor and his mother. What a great ending to this whole thing and a great reason to risk my life. Anyways, this has been a great episode and a fantastic new accomplishment for Barnabas, and if you enjoyed this video or want to suggest anything, make sure to leave it down in the comments. Also, if you want to talk to me, make sure to join my new Discord because we don't have a lot of people over there right now, and it's a fun place to talk to me or my community. But with that, I will see you guys in the next video.